All right, so if you can take out your long division packet, we're going to be taking a look at number 13. Now, number 13, it says, determine all the factors of this expression if one of the factors is x minus 1. All right, well, if you want to determine the factors, my first thought would be, all right, we have 4 terms. Let's try to factor by grouping and see what our factors are. But if you try to group this, you'll realize right away you're going to run into a dead end. You're not going to be able to factor this utilizing the grouping method. So we have to come up with a different way to do this. Now, if x minus 1 is a factor of this expression, it should divide evenly into this expression, right? Because all factors are what multiplies together to give you the expression. So that being said, it should definitely divide evenly into the expression if it's a factor. So let's do this. Let's do long division and see if it divides evenly into the expression. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our first term out here and our first term under the division bar. And we want to say to ourselves, what could I multiply x by to give me 3x cubed? Well, I'm going to multiply it by 3x squared. So let me put a 3x squared up here. Okay, so now 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. And then 3x squared times negative 1 would be negative 3x squared. All right, now we know we have to subtract this expression from these two terms up here. So in order to subtract, what we're going to do is we're going to change our signs. So I'm going to change this to a minus, and I'm going to circle it to tell myself, all right, I changed it, and that's what I'm using. And I'm going to change this negative to a positive, and I'm going to circle it to say, all right, I changed it, and that's what I'm using. All right, so you'll notice what happens here is your first two terms cancel off, and that should happen. If that doesn't happen, it means we made a mistake. And then here, when I combine these, I get 10x squared. All right, now, since I only have one term down here and I have two terms out here, lets me know I got to bring the next term down. So when I bring this down, that's what it looks like. All right, so now we start the process again. We say, what do I multiply x by to give me 10x squared? Well, I have to multiply it by 10x. So I'm going to put a positive 10x up here. And then when I distribute 10x times x is 10x squared. And 10x times negative 1 would be negative 10x. All right, now again, let's subtract this expression from this expression. So when we subtract, we change our signs, right? So this positive 10x squared becomes a negative 10x squared. I'm going to circle it so I know I changed it. And then this negative 10x becomes a positive 10x. And again, I'm going to circle it so I know I changed it. All right, so just like before, our first two terms cancel. That should always happen, right? A positive 10x squared and a negative 10x squared cancel off. And then when I combine negative 18x and positive 10x, that gives me negative 8x. And I'm going to bring down the next term. All right, so we're at our last step here, and we're hoping we have no remainder because if x minus 1 is a factor, it should divide evenly into this expression. All right, so we're going to say, what do I multiply x by to give me negative 8x? Well, negative 8. So let's now distribute. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. And then negative 8 times negative 1 is positive 8. All right, looks like we're in luck here because now when I subtract these, right, I'm going to change my sign. So change to a positive and circle. This time I'm going to change to a negative and circle. And what happens is, look, a negative and a positive 8x cancel, and a positive 8 and a negative 8 cancel. So it did divide evenly. So what we know right now is this is one of our factors. X minus 1 is a factor because it divides evenly into it. Now we also know that factors multiply together to give you the original expression. So if I were to multiply x minus 1 times my answer that I was left with here, it should give me back the original expression. So not only is x minus 1 a factor, but what I'm left with on top right here is another factor. So if I were to multiply x minus 1 times 3x squared plus 10x minus 8, they would give me back this original expression. So this is one factor, and this is another factor. But if you notice, this is a trinomial. This can probably be factored further. So if we want to determine all the factors, let's take this trinomial and factor further. Okay, so I'm going to bring my x minus 1 down, just because I don't want to forget about that factor. And here, since we have a number other than 1 in front of our x squared, we're going to have to do the rainbow into factor by grouping. Okay, so we know when we do factor by grouping, we bring down the first term, we leave a big space, and we bring down the last term. And when I come up with two numbers that multiply to the rainbow number, so multiply to negative 24, and add the positive 10, that's what I'm going to put in the middle right here. Okay, so two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to positive 10 are going to be positive 12 and negative 2. And because I have my x right here, let's remember to put the x on each of these. Okay, so now I'm going to keep bringing down this x minus 1. And now I'm going to do my grouping. So out of the first two terms, I could factor out a 3x, which leaves me with x plus 4. All right, out of the next two terms, I have to decide, am I going to factor out a positive 2 or a negative 2? Well, if I want to be left with a positive x and a positive 4 in parentheses, I need to factor out a negative 2. So I'm going to factor out a negative 2. And when I do, negative 2x divided by negative 2 is positive 4. I'm sorry, positive x. I'm jumping ahead here. And negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4. Okay, so close that parenthesis as well as the other. So now let me bring down my x minus 1. And then I'm going to take what's in front of our common binomial and group them together in a parenthesis, so the 3x minus 2. And then I'm going to rewrite this common binomial as my final factor. So these right here are the three factors of this expression. If I were to multiply all of these out, I would be left with this expression right here.